What's up, guys? This is the deal. UFC Tampa is the final card of 2024. I'm in a year-long UFC Pick'em challenge. If you crack the top 10, you win money. If you crack the top 5, you even have a chance to win a few $1,000s. That's the position I'm in. I am in striking distance. I need to cover 7 points more than the next guy to be in the money. So to do that, I need a completely chaotic card at UFC Tampa. So I'm going to give you my full card picks, predictions, and it just needs to be chaos. So this is not necessarily the fights that I think are going to happen, the outcomes that are going to happen. They're my desperate picks. So I need your help. If you think I'm way off on a dog pick, let me know. If there's a dog that I missed that I should be including, let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and let's get into it. First fight of the night, we have Josephine Knutson taking on Piera Rodriguez. And I'll be honest, at this price tag in a women's MMA fight, Knutson minus 240, we haven't really seen her shine all that much just yet. 5'3", 60-inch reach, Piera Rodriguez, a near 2-1 underdog. Same size, 3.5 inches is the difference with the reach. You also add in the fact that Piera Rodriguez is very well-rounded. She does have good wrestling. She does have good boxing on the feet. She's an aggressive fighter. I think I have to take my first dog shot here and take Piera Rodriguez to get the job done by decision. And I know Josephine Knutson is Hamzat's girl. They train together, but I'm just not all that impressed. So women's MMA, Piera Rodriguez, first underdog. Next fight, tricky one here. Davy Grant taking on Ramon Tavares. Grant now the small favorite at minus 115. I thought about taking Tavares here. If he gets to become a decent-sized underdog, I may lean his way. But Davy Grant, even at 38 years old, he's still showing that he can fight competitively with a pretty good level of competition. So, yeah, usually at 38 years old at bantamweight, that's a tough weight cut to make. But he's coming off a split decision loss to Daniel Marcos, a fight you could argue he won. And Marcos, we'll talk about him later. He's a very good fighter. He's a very bright prospect. So he's still hanging in there. We know that he's got a decent wrestling background. And on the feet, he likes to go to war. He can throw a high level of output. He can land 100 significant strikes in there. He has a granite chin. Tavares, another guy who likes to go to war. So if you're telling me both of these guys are just going to exchange on the feet, but I also have Davy Grant with a probably slight wrestling advantage, I think I'm going to go with Davy Grant here to get the job done, likely by decision. Next fight, Miranda Maverick taking on Jamie Lynn Horth. Maverick minus 725. I have to at least consider throwing Jamie Lynn Horth in there as an underdog just because the majority of people are going to be backing Maverick. And if for some reason she lays an egg, which she has before, then I scoop up 4.5 points right there. I need to eclipse the next guy by 7 points total. So this would be a massive swing. I just don't know if I can get there because I know for a fact Miranda Maverick is going to go in there. She is going to wrestle heavy. That's going to be her game plan, and that's how you beat Jamie Lynn Horth. Now, if Horth can stuff the takedowns and stay on the feet, I have never been impressed with the striking of Miranda Maverick. So she can win a decision that way. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Miranda Maverick, 27 years old, approaching her peak. With the wrestling that I've seen, I know she can get it done. At a higher level of competition, Jasmine Jasudavicius, she loses that fight. Someone with a higher level of grappling can stifle Miranda Maverick and really just confuse her because if she has to turn to her striking, she's not going to get it done. But in this fight, I think she can go a hard 15. Submission probably on the table, but I'm going to likely go with Miranda Maverick by decision. And that could be the difference maker. So if I'm way off, if that's the pick I should be taking, let me know down below. Next fight, Miles Johns taking on Philippe Lima. This is another spot, man. This is a tricky one. Miles Johns, 30 years old, hitting his prime. He's coming off of what should be 4 straight victories in the UFC. He's had a bit of a career resurgence. So you're telling me a guy who's on a 4-fight win streak is a plus 200 underdog to Felipe Lima, 26 years old, just made his UFC debut. The experience difference is massive here. And Lima's coming off of, yes, an impressive victory over Naimov, who I never considered all that good to begin with. I thought he was fraudulent. Lima goes out there, gets the job done, finds a finish, and now he's a minus 245 favorite. I don't get it. I know Miles Johns in the past, he's put up some stinkers before. Cardio's been in question, low volume on the feet sometimes, but at his best, he can wrestle. He can go in there and exchange and have, a good striking showing with decent power mixed in. So, with the momentum on his side, on a win streak here, I kind of feel like I have to go with Miles Johns. So give me Miles Johns to get the job done by decision as a plus 200 underdog. Next fight, Sean Woodson, Fernando Padilla. The line closing in here, Sean Woodson was a bigger favorite earlier in the week. Money coming in on Padilla, and I'm going to follow the money. I'm going to trust in the line movement here. I do like Sean Woodson, another guy who's on a win streak here. Another guy, he's just massive for this division. He's shown that he's very difficult to take down. He's actually mixed in wrestling of his own, but it's the boxing on the feet, the length in the boxing that makes him an extremely tricky matchup for a ton of people. But Padilla, on the other hand, he's 6'1". He's 76 inches with the reach. He can match those physical attributes of Sean Woodson, and he's the more dangerous guy in there. I think on the feet, Woodson more of a traditional boxer. Padilla is willing to mix in the elbows. He's willing to mix in the flying knees. And then he has the submission upside as well. So I think it's going to be a tricky fight. I do respect Sean Woodson. I could easily see him winning a decision here. But again, I need some dogs, and I'm going to take Padilla to get the job done by submission. Next fight, Joel Alvarez taking on Drakkar Klose. If this fight was 3-4 years ago, you maybe think about taking a flyer on Drakkar Klose. He's one of these guys who fights very infrequently. He is an inactive guy, but when he is in there, he is consistently winning and at a decent level of competition. He's got decently sharp striking on the feet, but he has very good wrestling. His biggest downside is that, the volume might not necessarily be there. I don't think the power is there. He doesn't really have a submission upside. So his path to victory in this fight is to win a decision against Joel Alvarez, which means he pretty much needs to wrestle nonstop, control Alvarez, stay out of trouble, and win on the scorecards. And I just don't see that happening. Alvarez, 31, he's peaking right now. This dude looks like an absolute monster. He is a true finisher anywhere the fight goes. On the feet, again, another one of these guys like Padilla. He'll mix in the elbows and the flying knees. He's not afraid to go to the ground. If it does, if we do see Drakkar Klose landing some takedowns, Alvarez is going to be live for a submission. So, 6'3" versus 5'9", 77-inch reach versus 70, 5-year age difference. Like, everything is in favor of Alvarez here. It's a big price tag, but this is not a dog I'm willing to back. Give me Alvarez to win by knockout. Next fight, sketchy fight. Gone back and forth a little bit. Michael Johnson taking on Ottman Izaitar, who has never impressed me. I think he is fake news. I think he has maybe one solid round to give. He's all power, and if he's not knocking you out, then he's just there to be hit. He is a little bit difficult to finish, but I just don't think skill-wise he really belongs in the mid-level, in the higher level of the UFC fighters. But if you give him a lower-level guy, he can spark him in a minute. That's not a problem. So it makes for an interesting fight because Michael Johnson, skill-wise, should be like minus 1,000. He can just skate on the outside, touch up Izaitar whenever he wants to, stay out of danger for the most part, and he should easily win a decision, if not find a finish in round 2 or round 3. The only downside is that the chin of Michael Johnson is horrendous. The durability cannot be trusted. So skill-wise, minus 1,000, durability, chin-wise, it's dangerously close. So Izaitar has a solid round to get the job done. outside of that is Johnson all day. I'm thinking about leaning towards Azaitar to get it done by knockout, but I don't think I'm going to get there. I'm going to trust in Michael Johnson. He still looks pretty sharp on the feet. He has the speed advantage by a million. Give me Michael Johnson to win. I'll say by decision. All right, then we go into the main card. Navajo Sterling taking on Tuco Tucos. And this is a very clear setup fight. Sterling is minus 900. He trains out of City Kickboxing. 5-0 perfect record. He is a finisher on the feet. Tuco Tucos doesn't really belong in the UFC. He's had stints with Bellator before, road to the UFC. He's failed on several occasions at this level of competition. When he gets to that UFC level, he just can't get past it. Sterling, I'm not totally sold on, but from what we've seen and knowing that he's coming from City Kickboxing, those guys are absolute killers. He's going to be training with Israel Adesanya, Carlos Olberg, those bigger guys. They have strong takedown defense. They have good striking. This is a Sterling setup fight. I'm not going to overthink it, even though I can get plus 525 on Tucos' side. He can mix in the wrestling and the grappling, make it a little bit interesting, but I'm not going to get there. It's Sterling by knockout, and that's got to be it. That's got to be it. Next fight, Adrian Yanez taking on Daniel Marcos. This probably is going to be your fight of the night. Two guys, we're going to see 0 takedowns. We are going to see 15 minutes of nonstop action on the feet. And because of that, I think I got to take Yanez here, plus 185. Marcos, again, Yanez is another guy, traditional boxer on the feet, quick hands, good power, but defensive liability. And Marcos, like I said, Yanez is more of the boxer. Marcos is going to be more of the versatile striker. I think he can mix up the attacks a little bit better. I think he's a little bit more defensively sound. Yanez's chin has been tested at this point, and he has failed a couple times. So I can see why Marcos is minus 225. But at the same time, I kind of feel like Yanez, with that 2-fight losing streak, I think that woke him up a little bit. He bounced back with the win over Salvador, getting the finish. He's got a slight reach advantage here. I think he's got the speed advantage. It's going to be a tricky fight. I love this fight. It's going to be a fun one. Give me Yanez to win by decision. Petrino taking on Dustin Jacoby. Another sketchy fight. Probably a controversial pick here. I'm going to back Dustin Jacoby. I've done it a million times before. I've been on the winning side sometimes. I've been on the losing side sometimes. He wins fights that he shouldn't win. He loses fights that he should win. Like it's a very confusing relationship with Dustin Jacoby. But Vitor Petrino, man, you could say he got fraud checked in his last fight. He got submitted by Anthony Smith. I'm not going to call that a total fraud check, but I think it just shows the limitations that Petrino has. I think on the feet, he's just massive power, big hooks, trying to knock you out, but he doesn't really have volume. He's not really a technical, solid striker on the feet. So Jacoby's going to have the striking advantage. This is a long-time kickboxer. He can maintain distance. He can touch up Petrino on the feet. He's got decent takedown defense. That's going to be the difference maker. If Petrino can go in there and get the takedowns, it could be a problem for Jacoby. But I'm going to trust Jacoby plus 250. It's one of those dogs I think I just have to take because I'm not sold on Petrino. I think he's a solid fighter. Jacoby at 36, he could be falling off a cliff, and this could look Petrino minus 500. But I'm going to take a shot here. Give me Jacoby, man. Give me Jacoby to win by decision. Couple fights left. Manel Kape taking on Bruno Silva. I should be taking Bruno Silva here, plus 300. Manel Kape minus 400 is a horrible price tag. He is just one of these guys where he came over from Ryzen. We just saw Asakura come over from Ryzen, get an immediate title shot. Kape was kind of the same way. He was a former champ in that promotion. They immediately gave him Alexander Pantoja. He failed that test. He just got a tough go of it early in his UFC career. Had a couple of losses. He was extremely gun-shy, very cautious, very low volume on the feet. Then he exploded, had a couple wins in a row, couple of nice knockouts there, and then he laid a few more eggs. I think he's been pulling out due to injury. He might have missed weight a couple times. Manel Kape is not a guy you can trust at minus 400, but I do believe that he belongs in the top 5. I do think he is going to fight for the belt at some point in the next year or so, and I just don't think Bruno Silva is on that level. Bruno Silva is actually the older guy here, 34 years old. He'll be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage, a little bit of lower volume. He is going to have probably the wrestling and the grappling advantage, but I don't think Kape's wrestling and grappling is all that bad either. So I think he can hang in that realm. And then when it's on the feet, as long as Kape isn't an idiot, he should be throwing the volume and he should be able to hit him with some good power shots as well. So it could be a very close fight here. Kape is known to do that. I probably should be taking Bruno Silva plus 300, but I'm going to believe that Manel Kape gets a win here. It's kind of a must win for him here, especially if he wants to get that title shot soon. So give me Manel Kape to win, and I'll even take him to win by knockout. Next fight, co-main, Cub Swanson taking on Billy Q, my guy Billy Q, one of my favorite fighters in the last 5 years or so. Cub Swanson, one of the last OGs in this sport. He is 41 years old. He is plus 135. But it's actually kind of surprising. Billy Q, you think of him as a younger guy. He's actually 36 years old as well. So it's two older guys, except one of them has way more wear and tear on the body, and that's Cub Swanson. And is there a little bit of value in Cub Swanson plus 135? I don't really think so. He has actually been looking pretty decent in his last few fights. I just think the way to beat Billy Q is to wrestle this guy, throw him off of his game plan. Don't allow him to build momentum, because when Billy Q builds momentum, he is in your face nonstop. He's the one shooting for takedowns, and you can see it here. He is landing over 7 significant strikes per minute. That might be the best in the division. So if Cub Swanson goes in there and fights very aggressive, shoots for takedowns, gets in his face, yes, he can win. But at 41 years old, I'm a little cautious that he's able to do that. I think Billy Q wins this fight. I think minus 160 is a great price tag. I'll probably be betting that as well. So give me Billy Q to win, and I think he can even find the submission. And that brings us to the main event. Colby Chaos Covington taking on Joaquin Buckley. We all know the story. This was supposed to be Buckley versus Gary. Gary got moved to the pay-per-view to take on Shavkat. Looked tremendous. Just have to throw that in there. So they bring in Colby Covington on somewhat short notice, taking on Joaquin Buckley, another guy who is surging at 170, looking like an absolute killer in there, coming off of a massive knockout win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in round 3. So a little bit of recency bias there maybe, because you're getting Buckley minus 280, but you could make the argument that Colby Covington belongs still in this top 5, and that he could be the minus 200 favorite in this spot, because he is the guy who has challenged for the belt several times. He has been in there with Leon Edwards, with Kamaru Usman 2 times. He's a former interim champion. He's been in the top 2, top 3 for like 7 years in a row. It's pretty insane what Colby Covington has been able to do at welterweight. And so for that reason, believing that he's not totally washed, I think I have to take Colby Covington plus 230. I'm going to be sitting there, hitting all my underdogs, waiting for the main event to happen, and all my chips are going to be in on Colby Covington plus 230. I think a ton of people will be backing Buckley at this price tag, because it goes one of 2 ways. If Buckley wins, I think he matches that price tag. He probably knocks out Colby in the first couple rounds. But if he doesn't, Colby Covington at least will always have the cardio advantage over just about anybody. So if this gets into those deeper waters, 3, 4, 5, Colby Covington by decision very much comes into play. So if Colby can just survive early on, if he can get the wrestling going a little bit later on, he is very live to win this fight. I think I just have to take a shot here on the dog. Colby Covington gets the job done by decision. Those are 6 underdogs that I'm taking. If I can hit all of those, I'll have a chance to win a few $1,000s. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know your thoughts below. If you haven't liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time.